Excuse me, you can't come to this bar, veterans only. I've served my time. What have you done? I've harassed people in the South China Sea as a fishing vessel. I've done my time. I'm a soldier. I'm a veteran now. See, same thing, same medal. Come on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is China's third sea force is worse than you think by channel Task and Purpose. We're dunking on China again. Did something happen? Usually Task and Purpose post videos when something happens. So whenever I read China titles, like let's hope another conflict like China-Taiwan or China-USA somehow didn't start. To me, it always feels weird. I mean, whenever I think of something like China and USA, they are such a big power. None of them want to fight each other, obviously. So to me, it feels like they probably won't, right? They have many tools in their disposal to like tiptoe around the issue, right? Because in the end, nobody goes to war unless they think like they are strong enough to win it, right? China and US is so big with such a big economy and like overall everything, military and everything. If the war between them breaks out, it's going to take a long and slow time. I don't think they're going to do that. So I don't know. Did something happen? Did some kind of incident happen? Who knows? But it's going to be interesting. Yeah. I'm pretty sure like Task was also made some kind of Indian Navy video style video too. I don't know. I'll have to check that one. I'll make a reaction about that one as well. Remember, did I finish the real life lore one? No, I didn't finish the real life lore one. Yeah, no, I didn't. So I'm going to finish that one as well soon. So let's watch this one. Remember, if you like more reaction, don't forget to subscribe. So, that way I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the season. And yeah, let's watch it.
Wait a second, why did the US military just blow up what looks like an innocent old fishing vessel in the disputed South China Sea? Airstrikes from US and Filipino fighter jets.
What? Oh, is this starting now? Did that just blow up a Chinese vessel? I hope not.
Coordinated with a barrage of high-precision rockets and artillery fire that completely obliterated the boat in a joint training exercise and a show of force, proving that overkill is in the eye of the beholder. Because these types of quasi-civilian fishing boats have actually increasingly been used by the Chinese Navy to carry weapons and harass other nations recently. The mock drill was a hypothetical response preparing for...
Yeah, so when Maldives and India relationship were kind of like getting tensed, there was supposedly civilian Chinese ship on Sri Lankan port or something. Apparently observing, obviously everybody knew that. So yeah, civilian ship or like master civilian ship is becoming like a big thing now on Indian Ocean. The China uses things like that just to like, mask thing, camouflage things.
An invasion by, a near peer, let's say. It was done alongside 16,000 allies in the Filipino force and 14 other countries from around the world, even utilizing Australian Air Force surveillance assets. Despite the fact that the United States and Filipino officials have said this wasn't directed at any country in particular, the message was clear. No fishing allowed. No, the point was that the US and its allies are well aware of China's mysterious Third Naval Force, and they're prepared to take action if need be. What is this Third Naval Force? But first, I want to tell you about the people that made this video possible, Conflict of Nations, a super fun and free online PvP strategy game.
Okay, did China even try to keep it secret, or just China just like openly said it like this is the Third Navy whatever force? Because I don't know, man. Yeah, well, go to original video page link, from there support this channel. Task and Purpose is a really great channel, especially like everyday things. He's really fast at it.
Get 13,000 gold premium currency and 1 month of the premium account features for free. We're used to hearing about militias on the ground, but we rarely hear anything about paramilitary naval forces. In March of 2009, the USNS Impeccable was surrounded by a swarm of Chinese vessels as it sailed through the international waters of the South China Sea. Towing a sonar array, the Impeccable conducted surveillance operations on submarines operating in the area. 70 miles off the coast of Hainan, a Chinese naval frigate, a maritime fisheries patrol vessel, and 2 fishing trawlers began circling the United States Impeccable. After the frigate failed to intimidate the US warship, the 2 fishing trawlers began sailing dangerously close, throwing grappling hooks into the water willy-nilly. The fishermen attempted to snag the Impeccable's towed sonar array. When that failed, they positioned themselves in front of the United States Impeccable and dumped waste and debris into the ship's path to force an emergency.
Alright, this shit is insanity. Like, what is the point where you just say, like, okay, this is like aggression, right? I have to answer some way, even a warning shot, right? Because China does that a lot, right? Who was that? Was it US as well? Or no, it was like EU or something, right? Chinese jets suddenly like flew really close to this like I don't know, airline or something that was carrying some important diplomat or something, way too close, like dangerously close. Like any pilot would tell you, like that's dangerous, like accident can happen level of things. And even in here, like civilian ship trying to like scare a warship or something, like do you really think that's gonna work? You're just trying to annoy. Is that what's happening? It's like, if I can't do nothing, at least I'm gonna annoy. Is that what's happening here? Because this doesn't even make sense. Like, how would civilian ship would intimidate a warship of United States? How does that even work?
Stop. Those sonar arrays, just for context, they cost about an estimated $25 million and they take prolonged periods of time to build. What might sound like or look like simple horsing around on the high seas when you hear about it or you see it in the news, it's actually an incredibly high-stakes game. These vessels are part of China's maritime militia, a shadowy umbrella force composed of multiple private fishing companies that take up government contracts to act as modern-day privateers. Employing private vessels to project power and harass your adversaries was a common practice in the 18th century England and France, who both employed hundreds of privateers under legal contracts called letters of marque. In modern times, think of it like China's version of the Wagner Group, but with fishing boats. To understand the Filipinos' perspective about a little on this, let's look at what the ambassador to Washington, D.C. had to say. Quote, "We're under the gun. We don't have the wherewithal to be able to fight all of this bullying coming from China, so where else will we go? We went to the United States and those that believe in what the US is doing. If he sounds frustrated to you, then yeah, that's because he is. These militia fishing boats have used powerful water cannons, military-grade lasers, and blocking movements in these disputed waters that have led to collisions and injuries for Filipino naval personnel. In 2024, China's People's Liberation Army Navy is growing at a breakneck speed. In 2020, China became the largest navy in the world by the number of ships. They're leaning heavily into the lever of quantity."
Alright, China is trying to bully everyone. So what? So people stop using these waters? China is like, oh, this only belongs to us because we are powerful enough to like do this. Is that what they're doing? Like point blank, oh, we are powerful now, so we can do this. Because that kind of aggression never ends well, historically, right? If the sea belongs to people, people are going to like use it. Why are you trying to bully Philippines and every other countries like that, right? They're trying to like dominate Indian Sea, and they say like Indian Sea doesn't belong to India. Well, then China Sea doesn't belong to China either, right? Why are you trying to bully these people right around this area?
So with a fast-growing navy, why would China turn to civilian fishing trawlers to help enforce their control over the South China Sea? And how do these civilian vessels fit into China's overall naval strategy? Are they pirates, mercenaries, or something else entirely? China's People's Armed Forces Maritime Militia, or PAFMM, is also colloquially known as China's Third Sea Force. Who's the first Sea Force? That would be the Chinese Navy. Who's the second Sea Force? That would be the Chinese Coast Guard, or the CCG. Together, these two forces unite to form a comprehensive maritime defense strategy. I like to think of it this way. The United States primarily projects power at sea using what's called a comprehensive naval strategy. This is a very structured, strategic process, with the president first publishing a national security strategy. Then the Navy uses that to publish its own strategic guidance. And then each of the Navy's geographic combatant commands use this to push their own more specific theater guidance. This structured trickle-down of strategy is mandated by law in the United States.
Hold up there. When you say president, it's like whatever presidents say, that's the strategy. Is that what you're saying? And then like trickles down? Because that's insane. Understand president is like your, like chief, the, like top guy. But president doesn't need to have much of qualification, right? Anyone can become president if they're like likable enough and get voted into office. But isn't this require some kind of expertise? Obviously, like president's gonna have like aides, right? People who basically tell him like experts and things. But he doesn't have to listen to them. Someone like Donald Trump can just say, oh, shut up, I'm not going to listen to you. Because there is no forcible thing that, okay, you have to listen to them. So someone who has no knowledge of any military or anything, who's not even smart enough, could get elected and screw things up. Is that what you're saying? Because that's insane.
United States, and specifically tasked the Department of Defense under Title 10 U.S. Code. Just saying that out loud sounds a lot like a very structured Western approach. So wait till you get a load of this. China, on the other hand, uses an integrated layered approach, weaving conventional military force in with maritime lawfare and unconventional strategy from its 3 sea forces. I'm going to sound like a hack saying this, but when has that ever stopped me before? Sun Tzu has a quote that applies here. He said, quote, "Be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness." Is that not exactly how you would describe China's third sea force? China would not be the first nation to deploy civilian maritime vessels this way. In 1975, US Navy commanders were writing about how the Soviet Union's massive fishing fleet had a spy ring used to track and report on US ships. CIA documents from 1982 also lead with the headline, "The Soviet Pacific Fishing Fleet, after more than fish." In this approach, conventional military force is only one part of their overall maritime strategy. This is important because as the US and the West enters into a new global era of strategic competition with China, we need to understand that we are not going back into the same global arms race that we won in the Cold War. With China's layered maritime strategy, it's not as easy to simply compare one's military assets to the other, because this is not how China is designed or plans to fight. This is China's infamous 9-dash line, a controversial sovereignty claim that critics of China say ignores the exclusive economic zones of Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. To say people are sensitive in Asia about these lines is an understatement, and I can understand why. The 9 dashes also contradicts the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea. In 2016, a UN arbitration ruled that the 9-dash line gives China, quote, no legal basis to the South China Sea. Despite this, China still claims that old maps contain these, quote, dash marks of sovereignty, and they claim it gives China authority over the entire region and its resources, which should make all of us concerned that Great Britain might find some old maps in their basement. The way China tries to enforce this claim is where China's third sea force is used most. These small strips of atoll islands are where a lot of the drama from China's maritime militia unfolds. They're collectively called the Spratly Islands, and they mark the southeastern perimeter of China's 9-dash line. These fishing vessels are being paid by the Chinese government to anchor and wait to intercept and harass any non-Chinese ships that attempt to enter the area. Investigation conducted by CSIS, researchers found that roughly 300 militia vessels are operating in the Spratly Islands on any given day. You may already know about China building military outposts in some of these islands, like Taiping, San Kei, and Gavin Reefs. Around the latter, Gavin Reefs, you can see a lot of militia activity. That's because only 12 miles to the east is the Vietnam-controlled island. 50 kilometers to the south, you can see the same thing happening in the Union Banks Atoll. They're within waving distance of one another. The situation is as awkward as it is dangerous. When Vietnamese sailors send out logistics ships to resupply their forces stationed on these outposts, Chinese fishing boats anchored offshore activate and do everything they can to deter them. With high-powered water cannons and dangerous maneuvers, the trawlers are a non-military blockade that is purposefully acting.
Okay, I don't understand this. It doesn't matter if it's a water gun. If you literally target a ship, isn't that an act of aggression? I think people are like clinging on to technicalities a lot, right? I don't know, man. They're literally attacking you with a water cannon. Come on, man. Like, this is like, okay, you need to chill the fuck out. If not, then, like, warship, warning shot. If nothing, and then sink the fisherman boat or whatever, right? I don't know. This is insane, man. Harassing is like indirectly harassing, at least that understandable. They're literally attacking you with water cannon.
Just below the threshold of armed conflict. China's idea here is to make it so difficult to support the islands that Vietnam just decides to abandon them. And by using innocent-looking fishing boats, it helps to make them appear less aggressive on the international news. In fact, seeing the US military blow one up at the beginning of the video probably made you feel a little weird down in the plums at first. That's exactly the plan. According to that CSIS study, China's maritime militia operate out of a string of 10 ports in China's Guangdong and Hainan provinces. Somewhere in this cluster of government buildings is the Shaanxi San'a Affairs Management Bureau. Despite this being a well-developed area, Google Street Maps is not available, and the map layer is suspiciously offset from the satellite imagery of the roads and buildings. What are you hiding there, Xi Jinping? And at this port lies one of China's newest branches of its maritime militia, the Sanxia. In shipyards only a few clicks away from China's newest aircraft carrier and one of China's largest naval bases, civilian fishing vessels are being custom built to serve dual military purposes. In a report published by both the U.S. Naval War College and the China Maritime Studies Institute, the militia in the Sanxia City Fisheries Development Company was established to be a professional paramilitary force. Sanxia Maritime Militia members have been photographed loading crates labeled light weapons onto one of their several dozen newly delivered large vessels, all of which boast mast-mounted water cannons, collision-absorbing rails, and reinforced hulls. Highly useful features for aggressive spraying and ramming. The largest Sanxia maritime militia vessels are 59 meters long, with 9-meter berms, and likely displace approximately 700.
Yeah, seriously, the balls, it's just like, bumping your chest. It's like, yeah, we are doing this, like this kind of, some kind of like a proper tactic or something, right? It's just like, oh, it's like all legal type of way. They're literally doing this, and like, this is insane. And just point blank even telling you all this, like, oh, this is this, and like we are paramilitary and all that. This is insane, man. I mean, all this like, shifty things, like, oh, anything's like, you can do anything type of way at this point, right? If you can do something, it's like, legal and honorable enough, let's just say. I don't know which words to use, but something like that. They're just doing this ridiculous shit, bullying people, and it's like, they're literally saying like, oh, these boats are like paramilitary.
150 tons. Okay, this story is starting to make a lot more sense to me now. In total, 4 primary groups comprise the main veins of China's maritime militia. I've put their names in text on screen right now, not because I can't pronounce them, but because it's in poor taste to show and tell during a YouTube video. That last name, the Tan Man, actually received direct praise from Xi Jinping, the president, as the model militia in 2013, and that should just go to show just how important these militias are to China's plans. Investigations reveal that 90% of the militia vessels identified in conflict with the Philippine, Vietnamese, and other ships in the South China Sea are privately owned by only a handful of investors. And this is where the rabbit hole gets even more. There's more rabbits in there. What I'm saying is these investors are for the most part not concerned about hiding their identity through anonymous shell corporations. Instead, they appear confident that their ship's actions are under the consent and protection of the CCP. A 2021 report that focuses on the financial network of the maritime.
Yeah, because I'm sure when push come to shove, communistic Chinese government is not gonna say like, okay, I guess we need you to disappear for the good of this country, because that's definitely not how communism works, right? So yeah, they're like, yeah, they'll be protected, obviously.
Maritime militia claims that each vessel that participates in militia operations received only 500 RMB, or about $70 a day. This is far less than what these vessels can earn for a day's catch, but considering that most of the time all they have to do is sit at anchor with a minimal crew, makes this a nice passive income in the off-season. According to the other reports, militia vessels can also qualify for special fuel subsidies at special rates. While there is no definitive number on how many vessels are enlisted at full-time and part-time militia, it's important to note that China boasts the largest civilian fleet in the world. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Administration, China has an estimated 500,000 fishing vessels at sea. Now, many of these ships will not meet the minimum specifications to qualify as militia vessels. However, in 2022, China had nearly 3,000 deep-sea fishing vessels capable of operating all across the globe. This is not even taking into account the thousands of civilian container, cargo, and logistical transport ships all operating under the Chinese flag. It is likely that only a small number of these ships operate regularly or even part-time as militia vessels. However, as an authoritarian country, China has the ability to conscript civilian vessels and their crews to serve military purposes. In January,
yeah, all it takes is one radio transmission like, listen to all civilians. This is martial law now. You all belong to CCP. Now report for your duty. The end.
1974, Vietnamese Navy Colonel Han Van was irate. Looking over the bow of his ship, he watched two trawlers from the South China Sea Fishery Company harass his frigates like gnats in the eye of a tiger. Firing on the vessels would be a clear violation of international law, but despite continued warnings, the ship refused to disperse. Meanwhile, another pair of fishing trawlers transported 500 PLA shock troops from the Hainan military district to the Parcels Island that Vietnam and China were fighting over, quickly overwhelming the Vietnamese troops stationed there. This first documented use of maritime militia vessels by China resulted in a Chinese victory. The initial success grew the maritime militia into what is seen as primarily two branches. One is a highly professional full-time militia that coordinates offensive harassment with the Chinese Navy and the Chinese Coast Guard. These ships are often renovated with high-powered water cannons.
Excuse me, you can't come to this bar. Veterans only. I've served my time. What have you done? I've harassed people in the South China Sea as a fishing vessel. I've done my time. I'm a soldier. I'm a veteran now. See, same thing, same medal. Come on, that is insanity. The level of like officialness and proudness that comes from all these sentences, like this is the type of thing you would expect like happening in the back channel. People trying to deny everything. Like, you can't even find official record or something. That would be like make sense. But this like official record of something paramilitary, and it's just like the open about it. That's insane.
Extra storage capacity, upgraded navigation and communication suites to include GPS spoofing, and reinforced hulls for ramming. The other are those weekend warriors who still primarily fish with their businesses, but are able to provide auxiliary support such as transporting fuel, food, troops, or other supplies to the Chinese naval bases and vessels. Together, these branches create a cheap, plentiful, and legally ambiguous support structure to cause just the right kind of chaos on China's behalf. Vietnam is not the only country struggling to deal with these militia vessels. On October 4, 2023, Al Jazeera reported that 3 Filipino fishermen died after their fishing boat was struck by a still unidentified foreign commercial vessel in the South China Sea. In response to continued militia harassment,
Okay, that is some bullshit. People have actually died now. Okay, technically you can't really identify was Chinese vessel or not, but this is insanity, right? Who's been aggressive there? Which vessels have been aggressive, right? Civilian vessels, obviously Chinese, right? This is just fucked up, man. Like, people actually died now. So it's not just some like simple harassment. Now people are dying now.
The Philippines announced in August 2023 that they would deploy their own maritime militia to confront bad Chinese behavior in the Spratly Islands. Vietnam began their own maritime militia program in 2007 when the Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam issued Directive 04 CTBQP, guidelines for strengthening the construction of maritime militia self-defense forces. Pretty soon, every fishing boat in the South China Sea will be packing heat and repping the flag. But what about...
Yeah, I was just about to say that. This is turned into South Park episode, man. What the fuck? It's just like, okay, you know what? How I'm gonna stop your like harassing fisher boat? I'm gonna have my harassment fisher boat. America comes, I'm gonna do the same thing. Somehow Russia joins this as well. And now India is getting, like, everybody's having like this like harassment fisher boat. Like, there you go. But just put more band-aid on rather than addressing the issue at larger scale. Just like repeat the process. If somebody does shady, you do shady as well. There you go. Iron cuts iron type of strategy.
In a time of war, how could the maritime militia act as a force enabler for the Chinese Navy if there was a conflict over Taiwan? Experts expect militia boats to play a variety of roles in a future conflict. These civilian-ish vessels could provide China with early warning, surveillance, reconnaissance, transport troops, as U.S. forces would likely be very hesitant at targeting civilian craft, even if it was Chinese. For China, these vessels are also ideal for dispersed logistics. Civilian vessels can deliver fuel, repair parts, and ammunition to Chinese naval ships in a covert way. The more elite branch of the maritime militia could hide drones, sea mines, electronic warfare components, or anti-ship missiles as part of their cargo, and then blend into civilian maritime traffic before and after launching.
America has been such a top spot and kind of like world police, whether you want it or not, for many like decades now, many decades. They're in a weird position. It's like literally top spot. That People are just like waiting for them to, like mess up, right? Some headline. US warship sinks innocent Chinese ship, and somehow that turns out it was an innocent Chinese ship. Oopsie. So I'm even surprised anybody from US side, naval side, can actually do anything there without panicking constantly, confirming 50 times. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are we sure we should attack this? Like asking 50 times, because anybody else, like Russia doing Russia things, China doing China things. These are the top powers apart from USA, right? Europe, Europe doesn't get involved in things like that. No, wait a minute, Europe does get involved, but not at this level, right? So US is the only one left, literal top power, and they are such under like microscope constantly. Like, how do they even make decisions? One admiral or somebody just like making wrong decision, and there you go. It's like a global news, like major pressure on US. That admiral is now like court-martialed or something just because of the pressure. Any other day, the admiral would be like, okay, honest mistake happens, is in the field, but because of the pressure, he would be like court-martialed now. That is insanity.
An attack. In essence, China's Third Sea Force is a maritime version of Mao Zedong's People's Army that can support the more conventional Chinese Navy in irregular and guerrilla warfare at sea. However, that's not to say that the United States and her allies are doing nothing in the wake of China's maritime militia. Experts agree that to take the wind out of China's sails, her Third Sea Force might be brought into the light. One of the greatest advantages of the maritime militia is the protections it gets from the ambiguous civilian military nature of the ships and crew. By building a database that identifies the ships as a maritime militia vessel, then other nations can remove any doubts that the fishing boat off their bow is a vessel of the state.
Yeah, see, China, I guess 12 years ago, were making a car that was like really looking similar to BMW X5. Just looking, it's not going to be same as BMW, come on. German engineering, but looking very close to that. BMW sued them, and obviously the case went to the Chinese court, and they just said like, I don't know what you're talking about, it doesn't look anything like BMW. What you're talking about, look at it, it's literally the same. Nah, I don't know, I don't see it. Everybody has their view, I don't see it, just point blank, there you go, right? China comes first, so even their court, why would they agree with BMW? So this is the type of shit is gonna happen here. Even if you recognize that this is, oh wait a minute, this is militia ship, not really fisherman ship, China's just gonna, I don't know what you're talking about. Just like everybody just like put their hands up. It's not, it's just fisherman ship. I don't know what you're talking about.
This solution is supported by the CSIS through programs like the Asian Transparency Initiative that tracks Chinese maritime militia activity and presents its information as open access for others to see. On the policy side, Steve Sachs, a Marine Corps Reserve Intelligence Officer and former lead analyst in the Pentagon's based China Research Group, recommends the United States leverage Section 1202 of the National Defense Authorization Act. According to Sachs, the section allows for the United States military to create, develop, train, and maintain partner relationships with irregular maritime forces from across the region. Working with local maritime partners is going to be the only realistic way the United States can try to balance the scales when it comes to the sheer volume of China's 3 sea forces that they try to bring to bear. Finally, updating policy and clarifying the rules of engagement at sea to include clear and understandable measures to take when confronted by maritime militia vessels is essential to maintaining operational initiative. Battles can quickly be lost if commanders are paralyzed by swarms of civilian fishing vessels off their bows, jamming their electronic signals and blocking their path. Arming sailors with clear rules of engagement and a means of identifying who's the enemy and who is not is going to be the key to winning any future maritime conflict with China. Leveraging foreign partners is...
That is so insane, man. What if like some kind of conflict does start? China invades Taiwan. Now there are fishermen ship like that in the way, right? Now you don't know if like China has full-blown started the invasion or not. You just see somewhat aggression. USA basically sees some aggression. Then what does USA do? Shoot down ships amongst which there are literally like... This is like a hostage situation where there are like civilians there, so you can't do anything type of scenario on the sea. A fisherman ship. Now USA knows that those are not really fisherman ship. But can they shoot at them without having like this like a global backlash? Right, what if like everybody backs down after you shoot and now like you just left with, you just shot some fisherman ship? So any kind of a conflict will become like such a like not really black and white. It will become a lot of gray, right? This is insane, man. And it causes bigger issue. Like what if US and China, because of something, do butt heads? You don't want that. You don't want China and US are fighting because that would be catastrophic, right? China, like attacking Indian borders right now is already panicking to someone like me. Obviously, I'm an Indian living in India, so China attacking India is already like panicky situation, because what if India and China fights? Still big powers, right? But what if China and USA fights? That also like, oh my god, what the fuck? So this is all insane, right? Right now with the Russia Ukraine thing, Middle East, enough wars, man, right? That's the feeling. Like, people were getting tired of COVID. By the end, it's like, is this even gonna go? People are talking about like COVID will never really go. You will always have to like that. That didn't become the case, thankfully. Now we are normal, I guess, right? So that is becoming with the wars now, right? Like enough wars are popping. We don't need new one. So I hope China, like backs down a bit with the aggression, and like China-USA relationship gets better. Like everything calms down, because if it doesn't, it's bad for everyone.
Especially privateers of our own, will also be essential for balancing the power of China's massive paramilitary fleets. After doing research on this branch of China's maritime force, I feel that it's impossible to have any conflict without maritime militias playing a major role. What are your thoughts on China's maritime militia? Let me know in the comments section down below, and be sure to grab one of our new t-shirts, shoot.
What is your thought? What thought can there be? This doesn't feel like honorable type of military technique. It's like a background, like, spy type of technique, right? Espionage level of shit, right? Using shady things to achieve something, and they are doing that like openly, right? Like actually saying on the website and all that, like openly saying like, we are this, we are proud to do this, which is insane. Yeah, but yeah, future is gonna be really weird with the warfare. If you have to worry about if that's a fisherman ship or an actual militia ship, and that thinking and buffer lag is enough to cause issues in the first place, right? So that's just insanity. Alright, well, that was China's Third Sea Force is worse than you think by channel Task and Purpose. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll finish real life lore video. It's still unfinished. I think I'm gonna do that very soon, and I'll see you next time.